Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We continue reading from the Bhagavad-Gita as it is, from the introduction of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. This was recorded, let's see, right in the end. Actually, this is a series of lectures given by Srila Prabhupada and in New York, of course. Let's see, in the end. He didn't say when he finished this. So, page 20, from the first paragraph on your Bhagavad-Gita. Everybody has a Bhagavad-Gita, so everyone can follow us. So, we will read, and as we read, we will try to explain further until we get to the end where we will be supposed to be today. Page 22, first paragraph, the end of the first paragraph. In the effulgent rays of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. The Brahmajyoti emanates from the supreme abode, Krishna Loka, and the Anandamaya, Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float in those rays. So as I mentioned earlier, this Brahmajyoti emanates originally from Lord Krishna's transcendental form. Is self-effulgent. This Brahmajyoti, another feature of the Supreme Lord, as we've learned also from the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti sabjate. These are the three phases or the three aspects of the Supreme Absolute Truth. And Prabhupada would always compare the three aspects of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Lord Krishna, to the sun. The sun rays is compared to the Brahmajyoti, the sun planet as the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan feature of the Supreme Lord is the predominating deity of the sun planet, Vivasvan or Surya Dev. So, yes, this is how, when we see that there is the sun rays or the sunshine, we can tell that the sun planet is already there or is on the horizon. But the complete understanding of the whole aspects of the sun is that also to meet the predominating deity of the sun planet. So the whole spiritual sky is all pervading this Brahmajyoti and originated from Krishna Loka, which is the topmost planet in the spiritual world, because this is where the Supreme Lord resides. And the Anandamaya, Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float in those rays. The Lord says, Natad basayate suryo nasasanko napabaka yat gatba nanivartante taddama paramam mama. Yes, in the spiritual world, there's no need of sunlight, there's no need of moonlight, there's no need of electricity, because it is self-effulgent. One who can approach the spiritual sky is not required to descend again to the material sky. Yeah, that is the meaning of Yat Gatvana Nibartante Taddama Paramamama. When we reach the spiritual sky, the spiritual abode of the Supreme Lord, innumerable planets, then one does not have to come back again into this material world, which is full of miseries and sufferings. We'll learn our lesson. We will remember somehow not to fall back or fall down again into the material world. In the material sky, even if we approach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, what to speak of the moon, we will find the same condition of life, namely birth, death, disease, and old age. No planet in the material universe is free from these four principles of material existence. This is the nature of the material world. It is compared to a prison house. The majority of the living beings, living entities, resides in the spiritual world. And in the material world, minority. Prabhupada says less than 10% of the entire created living beings are in the material world. Just like in a city, there is a prison house or a jail house where the rebellious or those who commit crimes, they'll be put to reform. So the material world is like that as well. It's a place where we reform ourselves. It's a place of learning. It's not a place of punishment. And naturally, when you're in jail, the punishment is there that you cannot get out. You can only get out if you behave yourself properly. So similarly, in the material world, as soon as we understand our position and surrender unto the Supreme Lord, knowingly that my main purpose is to serve Him and not to enjoy the material energy, then I can get out. But as soon as we have this propensity to enjoy the material world with the sense objects, with our senses, then there is no way we can get out. And as long as we are here, there is a stamp, Dukalayam Asasvatam. It is full of miseries because the whole material creation is temporary. It is eternal, there is a cycle, but at the same time, it is temporary. Everything has a past, present, and future. Unlike in the spiritual world, everything is always in the present. Time is conspicuous by its absence. Here we are controlled by time. As we mentioned from the last meeting that we have. Yes. As long as we're in the material world, even up to the topmost planet, the Brahmaloka, we will experience these miseries of life, birth, death, old age, and disease. Of course, it says in the heavenly planets, you don't see the denizens having white hair. They don't have Nayati Hospital there. They don't have Apollo Hospital. They just like, when it's over, they just leave their body and they come down again into the earthly planet, the place of death, Mrityuloka. So yes, that is the nature of this material world, is that no one can be free from the four principles of material existence. As long as we have this body, as soon as one takes birth, one is guaranteed to die. And as soon as one dies, one will take birth. Again, now either material form, next life, or spiritual form. It depends. Very rare that one will have his last birth in this material world and go back to Godhead. Very, very rare soul that can attain that. But it is meant for everyone. We are meant to ultimately, someday, it says in the introduction of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, that someday we will all go back to Godhead. Some sooner, and some may take longer. But Prabhupada says also, if you want to stay here in the material world as long as you like, you can. If you want to remain here, it's up to us. If we want to forget Krishna, Krishna will make sure that we will forget him. He's the only person who can do that. So merciful, but giving us all of the facilities for all of our desires to be fulfilled. That's why he is God. If he controls it, then he's not God. Then we will be like robots with remote control. It's up to us to get out of this material world or to remain in this material world. But after some time, we'll also get sick of it. Did you have an experience of that? Getting sick of the material energy? Getting sick of, oh, it's useless. Why do I have to try? Why do I have to endeavor? I ended up in the same place. You just go round and round and round. You try to move, but then you ended up in the same spot. You have that experience? That's why we are here. We try to improve our condition. We try to improve our happiness. We try to improve our situation whereby we can be really free from the cycle of repeated birth and death. The living entities traveling from one planet to another, but it is not that we can go to any planet we like merely by a mechanical arrangement. So this is what they're doing now, right? Before they want to go to moon, now they want to go to Mars. And they're sending vehicles only. They're not able to send a man to go to Mars. Or maybe they will send a monkey just for an experiment if the monkey will survive. But even if you go there to Mars or to Pluto or to Venus or to Saturn, you will not be able to survive there. As Prabhupada says, you need special body in order to remain alive there. It's like if you want to go to the sun planet, you need to have a fiery body also to adapt to that environment because it's so hot there. How many thousands of degrees Celsius? Here in the planet Earth is 50 degrees, 55 degrees. We're like scorching. Not be able to survive. So there is no mechanical arrangement can reach those places. But this is what the soul is, sarvagata. He can go anywhere, wherever he wishes. It's like a yogi. He can go any planet he wished to at the time of death. But then again, you have to come down. If we desire to go to other planets, there is a process for going there. This is also mentioned. Yanti deva brata devan pitrin yanti pitri brata. Yeah, one can worship the forefathers, or one can worship the demigods, and they can go there. But what is the use? Prabhupada mentions also one time or another that most of my disciples, they just want to go to the heavenly planets where the sense enjoyment is far more than what we have here in the earthly planets. That means we just want to enjoy. But real enjoyment is not in the material world. Enjoyment in the material world is part of our sufferings. Because the one more wants to enjoy materially, then the one more will suffer. A little bit of enjoyment, few seconds, few moments of enjoyment means so many lifetimes of sufferings. No mechanical arrangement is necessary if we want interplanetary travel. But why just interplanetary travel? Just go, pierce the coverings of the universe and go to the place where no one will take birth again. There is no anxiety. Vaikunta. The Gita instructs, Yanti Deva Brata Devan. The moon, the sun, and the higher planets are called Swargaloka. There are 3 different statuses of planets: higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. Yes. It says also that there are 14 planetary systems, 7 higher, 7 lower, and we are in the middle planetary system. Bhuloka is Swargaloka, and down the nether regions, the section of the universe where it is very, very degrading, miserable. The planets where sinful living entities will be punished. This is in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the structure of the universe. So we are in the middle. The higher planetary systems, called Swargaloka, is a place of the demigods. The earth belongs to the middle planetary system. That means earth. Burloka. Bhagavad-Gita informs us how to travel to the higher planetary systems, Devaloka, with a very simple formula. Yanti Deva Brata Devan. One need only worship the particular demigod of that particular planet, and in that way go to the moon, the sun, or any of the higher planetary systems. Demigods are very easily pleased by simple worship, not elaborate. Even those who are in the mode of ignorance can worship the demigods, and they can be elevated to, eventually, they come to the platform of goodness, and then they can go to the higher planetary systems. One need only worship the particular demigod or of that particular planet, and in that way go to the moon, the sun, or any of the higher planetary systems. Now they try to supersede this process. Many of the modern day billionaires, rich people, they build their own rockets. They build their own interplanetary vehicles. And if you have lots of money also, lots of euros, lots of pounds, lots of dollars, you can be part of the excursion, a tourist. Was that Bezos and even what? Elon Musk? X Space. They have a race who can go further and further and further. But some of them, because there is a certain belt where you cannot really cross that, the atmosphere is so intense that no one will be able to survive. But this is their wishful thinking that someday they'll be able to do that. And some of them, they just go a little bit in the higher space, and then they come down and they consider themselves as successful. And to go there, you have to pay also so many millions of dollars. Why spend so much money like that, where you have to come down again? Yet Bhagavad-Gita does not advise us to go to any of the planets in this material world, because even if we go to Brahmaloka, the highest planet, through some sort of mechanical contrivance, by maybe traveling for 40,000 years, and who would live that long? We will still find the material inconveniences of birth, death, disease, and old age. So instead of trying to go to those places where life expectancy also is longer, like if you're in Brahmaloka, life is longer, practically no disease, practically no death. You still have to die though. Practically no old age, but still you have to die. There's no way. Abrahma bhubana loka punarabartino Arjuna. From the highest living being, Lord Brahma, to the most insignificant insect, or Indragopa, they all have to die. No one remains here alive. No one can live forever. So why not find a solution how to get rid of this? No more repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. This is our main problem. But one who wants to approach the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, or any other planet within the spiritual sky, will not meet with these material inconveniences. Once and for all. Amongst all of the planets in the spiritual sky, there is one supreme planet called Goloka Vrindavan, the original planet in the abode of the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. All of this information is given in Bhagavad-Gita, and we are given through its instructions, information how to live the material world and begin a truly blissful life in the spiritual sky. So yes, once and for all, just forget the excursion of going here and there, different planets in the material world. Why not aim for the highest, where no one will have to come back again in this material world and suffer the same miseries of life? He says that 75% of the kingdom of God is the spiritual world, and 25% of part of the kingdom of God is the material world. But still, that just to compare, 75%, that's quite a big chunk. If you have a piece of cake and you divide it in 4 parts, and 1/4 is the material world, but still the material world compared to the spiritual world is just like a dot. Just like one of the dots in the corner of the spiritual world, or immediate outside boundary. Even though it says still innumerable, unlimited planets in the material world. And somehow, in each and every universe, there is a place where the Supreme Lord appeared. In every universe, there is a Vrindavan, and that is considered to be in the earthly planet. So the demigods, actually, Prabhupada says also that they're lining up, they're in queue to take birth, especially in ISKCON. Because this is the best place, best way how we can revive our Krishna consciousness in human form of life. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, the real picture of the material world is given. It is said there, Urdhva Mulam Adha Shakam Ashbatang Prahur Avyayam Chandam Si Yashya Parnani Yastang Veda Savedabit. Here the material world is described as a tree whose roots are upwards and branches are below. We have experience of a tree whose roots are upward. If one stands on the bank of a river or any reservoir of water, he can see that the trees reflected in the water are upside down. The branches go downward and the roots upward. Similarly, this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. The material world is but a shadow of reality. In the shadow, there is no reality or substantiality. But from the shadow, we can understand that there are substance and reality. In the desert, there is no water, but the mirage suggests that there is such a thing as water. In the material world, there is no water. There is no happiness. But the real water is actual happiness. Of actual happiness is there in the spiritual sky. There is no other literature in the world that explains all of this. Isn't there? You find any literature that explains the Vedas explaining this, especially Bhagavad-Gita, which is it says this is the summary, the jewel of India's spiritual wisdom. How informations are given to us so that we will think about it, and if we really want to get rid of not coming back again in this material world, get rid of this material form, it says here, the description. There is no clearer description of the material world and the spiritual world. And even though the Bhagavad-Gita is considered as the ABC, we're given a glimpse, of course. It's a vast literature, the Vedas. It's amazing how, the description here of the material world is compared to that of a tree, which is like having the reflection on the water. It's upside down. It's asbata, a banyan tree. A banyan tree is like that also. It's like when you go in parikrama, Barahagat, after the Krishna Balaram tree, then you after our Bhaktivedanta hospital, then you will see there's a big banyan tree there, which is like really old. And devotees will circumambulate. You can see that the roots are also hanging. That's the only tree like that. So that means the material world is a reflection, but Prabhupada specifically says perverted reflection. Perverted means like more of not real And also, in a sense, perverted means it's like imitation of the real thing. It looks real, but it is an imitation. Therefore, it doesn't have any substance. It is hollow. It is shallow. It's like nowadays they try to create robots with artificial intelligence, but they don't have emotions. You can program them to clean your house. You can program them to wash your dishes after you're taking pasaram. Maybe you can program them also to do artik, puja, lit up agarbati, or do the ghee lamp like this. But there is no emotion there. I was just seeing this futuristic. They're robots. They act like human beings. They have even skin. Who is telling me? You're telling me? Huh? Someone who's telling me the skin also almost like real skin. But then there is no emotion. There is no bhav. So this is the material world. Material world is like that. It is no real substance. Everything is artificial. Even in, you deal in the material world, there's no really relationship there. The only relationship they want to produce is because of money. Oh yes, you're my friend, because I am able to get something from you. But Krishna is our real friend. He's the only one whom we can really trust, whom we can really depend upon. It's like in the material world, it's like business partner, right? Business partner. That's all. They're partners because of money. But in the spiritual world, yes, we have an eternal partner with the Supreme Lord. There is substance. Because there is love, there is devotion. The living entities serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they're happy, even without any reciprocation. Of course, Krishna reciprocates, but the devotees, they don't expect any reciprocation. So that is reality. Otherwise, everything is a shadow. Everything is artificial. Everything is plastic in the material world. Plastic. It's not real. Yes, in the material world, it is compared to a desert. There is no water. There is no happiness. I was seeing this movie about the first person, a Buddhist who was traveling from China. He wanted to come to India because he wanted to see the real source of all the teachings of Buddha. And he traveled for 25,000 kilometers from China. He went to Central Asia, Kazakhstan, and then he went like this. And along the way, it is desert. There is no water at all. But sometimes he would see like glistening, some kind of like reflection of the sun. Yeah, it's a mirage. It's a reflection of the sun because it's so hot, the sun, and he was like running for it. So this is our condition. We're running for something which doesn't exist. What is that doesn't exist? We're running after happiness that doesn't really exist in the material world. Only in Krishna consciousness we can find real happiness. But the real water of actual happiness is there in the spiritual world. And that descends in the material world. Goloka Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. The Sankirtan process came from the spiritual world. The origin is the spiritual world. Only through chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and hearing about the topics in relation with the Supreme Absolute Truth, His name, fame, form, qualities, and pastimes. This is the only solace of the devotee who is in the material world. There is no other alternative. We cannot find anywhere. As Prabhupada says, if you have a better alternative than this, then show it, provide it, give it to us, and we will take it. But there is none. So why don't you take this? The Lord suggests that we attain the spiritual world in the following manner. 15.5 Bhagavad-Gita. Nirmana moha jita sangadosha adyatmanitya vinivrita kama dvandhair vimukta sukha dukkha samgyair gachanti amudha padam avyayam tat. That padam avyayam or eternal kingdom can be reached by one who is nirmana moha. What does this mean? We are designations. We are after designations. Sometimes wants to become sir. Someone wants to become Lord. Someone wants to become the president or a rich man or a king or something else. As long as we are attached to these designations, we are attached to the body. Because designations belong to the body. But we are not these bodies. And realizing this is the first stage in spiritual realization. This is upadhi. Upadhi means mistakenly identifying with the body as the self. And this is our disease, main disease. We are so attached with this body, or my friend, or my love, or my family. It's okay to have affection, but don't be attached to the extension of yourself. Because Krishna will take care of everything. It is not that we are the one who is taking care of everything. Krishna is taking care of everything. But we are caretaker. Yes, we are caretaker. As long as we are attached to these designations, we are attached to the body because designations belong to the body. But we are not these bodies. We are associated with the three modes of material nature, but we must become detached through devotional service to the Lord. If we are not attached to devotional service to the Lord, then we cannot become detached from the modes of material nature. We're going to be attached anyway, either spiritually or materially. If you're attached materially, then you are not in connection with the Supreme Lord. If you're attached with the Supreme Lord, then you are detached from the material world. You cannot be attached to both. Or you cannot be detached with both material and spiritual. We have to be attached to something. And we cannot say, okay, I'm gonna balance it. Material and spiritual. It still doesn't work. At least 51% spiritual. And then eventually he'll become, hopefully, 100%. But Prabhupada says, even if we are like 80% surrender to Krishna, he'll make sure we'll go back home, back to Godhead. But Krishna is asking here, 100%. Sarvadharman parityaja. Give up everything. The Prabhupada, as a genuine emissary, as a genuine representative of the Supreme Lord, he says, even 80% you surrender to Krishna, I'll make sure you go back home, back to Godhead. That's still high, isn't it? But even 50% surrender to Krishna, well, I'm sure many of us are 50% surrender. So make it 100% sometime, but at least make it 51%. So the balance will be tipped to the other side. Designations and attachments are due to lust and desire, our wanting to lord it over the material nature. It is due to lust only, that's why we are still in this material world. Now, lust doesn't mean only sex. Lust means also wanting to maintain one's position, and that is most important, most difficult also to give up. Sannyasis, they're supposed to be renounced. And wealth or attraction towards the opposite sex. But some sannyasis, they don't want to give up their position or wanting to have a position. That is more difficult. False ego. As long as we do not give up the propensity of lording it over material nature, there is no possibility of returning to the kingdom of the Supreme, the Sanatan Dham. The eternal kingdom, which is never destroyed, can be approached by one who is not bewildered by the attractions of false material enjoyments, who is situated in the service of the Supreme Lord. One so situated can easily approach that supreme abode. Who's not bewildered by the attractions of false material enjoyments. Yeah, we're always thinking of the future, but our future, we should think what's going to happen to us at the time of death. That is most important. But whatever endeavor we do materially will be finished at the time of death. It will not count. We're not going to be able to take anything. What is more important is how we're going to proceed towards our next life. Elsewhere in the Gita, 8:21, it is stated, Avyakto kshara iti uktastam aho paramam gatim yam prapya nanivartante taddama paramam mama. Avyakta means unmanifested. Not even all the material world is manifested before us. Our senses are so imperfect that we cannot even see all the stars within this material universe. In the Vedic literature, we can receive much information about all the planets, and we can believe it or not believe it. All the important planets are described in the Vedic literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, and the spiritual world, which is beyond this material sky, is described as avyakta, unmanifested. One should desire and hanker after that supreme kingdom, for when one attains that kingdom, he does not have to return to this material world. Our senses are imperfect, so we rely on the informations coming from Hari Guru and the Sastra, from the Supreme Lord, from the Spiritual Master, and the Scriptures. Whatever the scripture says, the spiritual master repeats. Whatever the Supreme Lord says, the spiritual master also repeats. And whatever the and the sastras, dharmata saksa bhagavat pranitam. These are not creations of some mundane wranglers or speculators. The Supreme Lord Himself initiated these scriptures coming from His lotus mouth. Vyasadeva, who is a literary incarnation, wrote the Vedas. So yes, we should not hanker for anything else. But due to our desire to lord it over the material energy, we still hanker for something which is temporary. Something which ultimately will not give us a permanent result. We should hanker for that activities where the result will be eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. And Srimad Bhagavatam explains further. We have so many books. Look at this library. We have so many books to read. It's unbelievable. If we don't spare time during the day to read at least 1 hour, how are we going to be able to understand? But still, it's difficult. We need to have that taste. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, our development or our progress in Krishna consciousness can be measured in how we are eager to hear. Hearing, just like here, we are hearing. These are Prabhupada's words. So we're hearing from a pure devotee. Bhagavad-Gita, we're hearing from Lord Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, we're hearing from Lord Krishna or His pure devotees. But we should act upon them from what we've heard or from what we've read. So in this way, this act also purifying. The more we hear them, all the misgivings and all the anarthas also are being uprooted up to a certain extent, but still we have to act upon them. And this is the test, whether we have understood what we've read or what we've heard. When we act accordingly, it's like there's one devotee, I asked him, a very senior Prabhupada's disciple, I asked him for any advice. He says, one's Krishna consciousness can be tested when you are alone. When you are alone, this is the test, how far your Krishna consciousness is. It makes sense?
Yes.
Huh? This is good. We're surrounded by all the Vaishnavas. Our consciousness is high. We're talking about Krishna. But when you're alone, what are you thinking of? Is it Krishna or Maya? Okay, we'll end here because that is the end. Are there any points? Yajñamurti Prabhu? You want to say something? A very senior devotee, Yajñamurti Prabhu here. Any comments? Yes. Where is a Bhakta mic there? Where is the other microphone?
They don't have.
There should be. This is my microphone. I mean, not mine. See, this is Maya. This is Krishna's microphone. There should be another microphone so they can hear. I can repeat if you like. There you go.
Yeah, Bila.
Right here, right here. Right here, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you were giving the example of the robot.
Robot? Yeah.
That there is no consciousness
No.
in the robot. But when we see the picture of our spiritual master in this one, so what we should feel that when we see the deity of Prabhupada or our spiritual master, what feeling should be that?
What feelings?
Yeah, the consciousness is not there in the murti of Prabhupada or spiritual master.
No, they're there. We may think that they're not there. They're spiritual. This picture is not a mundane picture. It's a transcendental picture. So, our consciousness should be that we should try to follow His instruction. Only by His mercy that we'll be able to also follow His instructions. Surrender. When you see a picture of Prabhupada, we should also offer obeisances. When you see a picture of your Guru Maharaj, you should offer obeisances. There's no difference. This is what you mean by absolute truth. When you see a picture of Krishna, it's not different than the deity of Krishna. This is like a picture of Krishna Balaram. It's not different than the deity Krishna Balaram. The same thing. But we don't have that consciousness. We take it for granted. It's like if you go to like Grihastha ashrams, place of residence, and there is no deities and they only have pictures, you should offer obeisances to those pictures. They offer their food to their pictures. They do artik to their pictures. There's no difference. So when we see the picture or even the Bhagavad-Gita, we should not put the Bhagavad-Gita on the floor. This is Krishna. Lakshmi also, you should not put it on the floor. This is energy of the Supreme Lord. We use that energy for Krishna. So this is what he called absolute truth. So our consciousness, the way we should think is that we should be with awe and respect, reverence. The same. It's like, when we go parikrama, we see the picture, or we see the relief of lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. So why devotees touch, put on their head? There's no difference. If you just ignore, then that is impersonalist. That is impersonalist, yeah. It's not that Prabhupada only is in his murti. Prabhupada is here in these pictures. These are transcendental pictures.
But sometimes when we are addressing deities or doing something, some seva for the deities, and we speak sometimes loudly or sometimes we fight between ourselves.
We become familiar. Serving the deities, we have to be careful. Don't take it for granted. They are there. It's like when you go on parikrama, Vrindavan, you have to be also in a good consciousness. When you go Govardhan parikrama, you should be in a good consciousness. Yeah, when you're serving the Lord, you should be in a proper consciousness. But more dangerous is serving the Guru, spiritual master, or advanced devotees. It's very easy to be familiar with them and thinking that they're ordinary souls. That is very dangerous. That's why serving the Lord in His Archavigraha form, you have to be very careful. But more careful if you serve the Guru or those who are highly elevated souls, representatives of the Supreme Lord. It's like he says, spiritual life is like a razor's edge. You can use it for nicely shaving, or if you're inattentive, you're gonna have to cut. Then they'll be like, after some time. We have to be careful, extra careful. And anyone, not just to the GBCs or sannyasis or the presidents, in dealings also with, you may see or think that they are just like ordinary devotees. There's no ordinary such thing as ordinary devotee. All the devotees are dear to Lord Krishna. Even the sweeper, even the pot washers, they're all part and parcels of the Supreme Lord. Or even to the non-devotees. We think that, I should only, with the devotees, I respect, but then, when you're dealing with Riskawala or, Sabjiwala, you say, hey! No, they're, you understand?
Yes, sir.
The Vaishnava is a gentleman or gentlewoman. Is always dealing is like proper. It doesn't matter whether, whoever they are. Right?
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I am sitting in the corner, but I always meditate upon the form of the Prabhupada and feel that he is living.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Any other points?
How to...
Hey, give the mic. Just one second.
Just a minute.
So that they can hear you, even in the internet or if we are live. I don't think we're live. We are alive, but we're not live.
What does it mean, 80% surrender? So if we have no attachment and whatever we have, life, we surrender in the way we think.
Yeah. How
surrender.
I understand. How can you really say, I'm 75% surrender or 60? Prabhupada is encouraging us ultimately, because he was giving a class in Los Angeles, and he was hammering. You have to surrender, fully surrender. And devotees, because you not fully surrender, you go back. You're not be able to go back to Godhead. So devotees, facial expression is like they're worried because the demand is 100%. And Prabhupada is already ended his class. And then he says, okay, 90% surrender. You'll go back home, back to Godhead. But devotees' faces are still like, hey, 90%? That's still a lot. Which means that we'll do our part and Krishna will take care of the rest. See, Krishna only wants to see our sincerity. Sincerity means being focused, being one-pointed attention. We are all trying to do our very best. And if there is any lacking, Krishna and his pure devotee will take care of it. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have to be sincere in everything that we do. We have to be mindful. We should not be mechanical. Of course, in the beginning it's mechanical. We don't have love. So we develop that love by continuously doing what we are told to do. If we have love, you will be crying every time, every moment. When you chant Hare Krishna, your tears will be like flowing and your hair standing on end and different emotions will come. But sometimes you have this glimpse. Huh? Any one of you have some time like that, you feel like, hey, I'm really low. I'm useless. But we should be in that mood. The pure devotees, they think that they're They're the lowest of the low. The pure devotees, they think everyone is a devotee except themselves. A neophyte thinks, hey, I'm very advanced. Look at me. So, sincerity, this is what Krishna is looking upon us only.
And in one place, Srila Prabhupada also said, not about this, 80%, he said, the future of my disciples are very bright.
Mm-hmm.
Future is very bright. And he said that even you have no qualities, you didn't have time to develop these divine Vaishnava qualities in so short time, and we are so attached, still attached, even we want to be rid of these all attachments, but what can we do? We are still attached. But he said, on the whole wave which created by the pure devotees, for example, in ISKCON, there are pure devotees, and they creating this wave which will go up to Golok Vrindavana, and we are just nearby of that pure devotees. We will be catched by this wave, like in ocean. When wave comes,
Sure.
it doesn't consider this is low, this is high. It will just take and to the ocean. So in the same way, this wave comes. It will take you, me, whatever, whomever, and it will go to Golok Vrindavana. So, for example, for me, this is only hope. I have no developed Vaishnava qualities. It is so high.
Keep doing it. Keep doing it. We should always think that I have not done anything.
Yes, I'm thinking. I'm 30 years here and nothing.
You are
Just
you,
30
that
years.
mean, you are at the point that you are still here. That means you are doing something which is makes sense. Otherwise, you will give it up. Okay? To the point that actually we're doing this day after day after day, even though we are not feeling it, but actually we're feeling something. You will not come up from Mangalartik if you don't get up from Mangalartik and you just no. There is some love there. There is some taste there. Even after 30 years, the taste later on will become just sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Right now we're still tasting the bitterness of the material existence. But later on, it's bliss.
Last point is also it's very frightening end of this material life, terrifying. Because Srila Prabhupada said he was lying down and putting his body just in the next room, and he said to his disciples that don't think that this will not happen with you. Everybody will go through the last exam. And it's even the thought about that becomes terrifying. You see, terrifying the consciousness, and sometimes it's disturbing so much.
This is a lesson for all of us. It's a lesson. He's teaching us a final lesson, the time of death.
For example, it pushes me to look to search for somebody who are more powerful than me, have more capacity to overcome such fear. So I want to take shelter of such a person, and I cannot find such persons. That's why I'm feeling just a little bit disturbed, little bit lost.
Don't be. We are all taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet here and his pure representatives. They may not be present. Anyone remembers the quote this morning that we've read? Mangalartik time? Yes? Say it.
Not exactly.
Okay, paraphrase it.
some, as we are persons,
Mm-hmm.
we have different thoughts or
Mm-hmm.
personality,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes there is disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
So we should.
Well, I don't think that's. Is that the one? No. It has something to do with separation. Subhadra. Subhadra, say it. Okay, you can say it.
I thought it was that I was saying that we all have, because he started it, that we all have.
Oh,
we're all
yes,
very
yes, yes.
different, we
Okay,
have
okay.
different opinions,
Mm-hmm.
so we should not take minor offenses. We should excuse.
Uh-huh. Okay, okay. I was thinking the other day that about separation. What Prabhupada was saying that separation is it's more intense. It's like it's more important in a sense than meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, that the separation from the Guru is sweeter than.
Yeah. So, but we are not separated at the same time. Physically, we may be separated from our Guru or Srila Prabhupada, but we are also connected. Yeah, with yeah.
Saying separation from the spiritual master is actually sweeter.
Yeah.
Don't be sad.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I remember.
you are feeling sadness, but actually, if you are connected with Prabhupada's books and with the Devotees Association, that is the solace. Yeah. Isn't it? That was this morning?
Let
No,
Radharani.
I have here.
Yeah,
Oh, what is that?
Is the ecstasy of separation from the
That,
spiritual
see?
master.
Yeah, read it.
The ecstasy of separation from the spiritual master is even greater ecstasy than meeting with him.
Yeah.
Ecstasy of separation is
Yeah. Greater than meeting him. So we are discussing Krishna, we're teachings of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So this is our solace. Physically, yes, we're very far. We just have to continue on. This is it. Guru is in Delhi only, but how, we cannot go there. It's 2.5 hours away only. But what is more important is Vani. Okay? Practice. Yeah, if you are always living in the Vani of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna, then you are with them. There's nothing to lament. Nothing to lament about. You are engaged. The main thing is you have to be engaged in practical service. Unless you can read and hear 24 hours. But very rare soul can have that. We have to practice. Do some practical service activities. Preaching, chanting, distribute books. Go with the Namahata, go to the villages. Then in this way, there is the substance. That is the substance.
not just chant, just one chant.
No, Prabhupada would not want that. That's very, very rare soul who can just chant and hear. We are a preaching movement. Okay? Do we stop here? Srila Prabhupada K. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Hari Om Tat Sat Dhanyavad.